Property investing and financial freedom have the ability to change your life and the people you care about's lives forever. Now, I'm not financially free yet, but I'm certainly on my way and working towards it at the moment. And what I can say is the things that I've learned, the people that I've met, the places I've been lucky enough to go, and, you know, the values that I now get to lead, and the fact that I've been able to find myself and figure so many things out as well along this journey. So I'm super excited today to explore 4 of the major ideas where I believe, or we believe, that financial freedom can radically change your life, and you should step into it and give it a crack.
Now, the first biggest change is obviously just having that passive income for life, right? Just not having to worry about the next paycheck coming in, not having to worry as much about the bills, having this income that's consistently coming through, rain, hail or shine, ill or health, is constantly coming through just to take a lot of the pressure off.
100%, bro. Like, I think about this so much, way more than I probably should, to be honest with you. Just in terms of at least getting those base living costs. Like, imagine you wake up, as you said, your food, your phones, your cars, your holidays are all taken care of, your kids' school fees. Like, it just takes a massive weight off your shoulders. And once that weight's off, and it's in a reoccurring way that, you know, comes rain, hail or shine, you know, everything begins to change.
I love that, man. But like, more importantly to me is the ability to set yourself and your family up today, but for the future, hopefully multiple generations. You know, we were really fortunate growing up. You know, we had by the time I grew up, you know, you had a pretty rough childhood, but, you know, by the time you were sort of 12 to 15 years of age, by the time that I was like 7, 8 years of age, Dad was doing quite well, the family was doing quite well, but we never had investments as a family, and the only way that money was going to keep coming in was if Dad continued to work. So like, coupling 1 into 2, not only do you set your family up to not have to worry about those bills, but you get so much time back, and you can actually be there for those special moments and be there for those times where a lot of people just can't, because they're forced to go to work to earn the income to pay the bills.
100%, bro. Like, I think it's so important to have that choice to drop your kids at school, to spend school holidays with them if you want to be at home in the afternoons when school's broken out. And I just so distinctly, we used to go down to Mollymook or Ulladulla every year for a holiday. It was like the highlight of our year, just surfing, golfing.
Pins and needles just here in Mollymook.
The funnest times ever. And I remember so clearly, like, we were on the beach, we used to stay at this guy Tony's house, and the house across the road was for sale, and we were in the car ride on the way home, and it was about the 5th or 6th year we'd gone down, and Mum and Dad are like, we could buy this. And it was like $76,000 at the time. And I remember seeing that property when I was down there a bunch of trips ago with the boys, and it had just resold for $1.3 million 25 years later. And I remember distinctly in the back of the car, for some reason, on the drive home, Mum and Dad were talking about it for an hour, and I'm just like, why don't you buy it? And now I'm older, I completely realise why we don't do these things. It's scary getting into debt. You've got to confront a whole lot of the stuff that you grew up with and the traumas, and you've got to sit there in that uncomfortable moment. And I fully understand it. Like, there's information overload. Sometimes markets do go down. Like, you know, sometimes you don't have anyone around you to talk about this stuff with.
It really is easier to not do anything than to do something. Like it is a lot of the time. But if you do want to set yourself and your family up for now, for the future, for generations to come, you do have to like really look yourself in the mirror and confront those fears and overcome those fears. And, you know, it's very challenging when you're trying to do that alone as well. Like, I really feel as though having a great team supporting you, great mentors, great accountants, lawyers, property managers, all of these people that are, you know, supporting you, that are holding your hands throughout that journey as well.
I love that, bro. Like, I think the third one, which you just sort of alluded to, is taking the pressure off your current and future self. Like, I what I've learned through this journey is it starts with a vision of your future and a better life, and then action creates momentum in and of itself. So I found that when I was going to a job that I didn't love, when I knew why I was going there, which was to save money to buy a property that in the future would change my life, it became a lot easier to rock up. But for your future self too, like a lot of people live in anxiety. Like I've seen it with so many family members of how am I going to live in the future? What's the pension going to look like for me? Like, how am I going to put my kids through university, or can I put them in private school? And it's like the decision to take small, consistent, low risk action over time and get educated about this stuff changes everything. And I love that idea of looking after your future self means that you start taking better care of your current self too.
It also really frees you to explore different ideas and different passions and different hobbies as well, because if you can free up some time, if you can go from working 6 days to 5 days, or 5 days to 4 days, or 4 days to 3 days, you get a lot more time to focus on these things. And I find like when I can go surfing, go do yoga, go do a workout, hang out with the boys, spend some quality time with Tay, I feel so much better after doing that stuff. And I feel as though there isn't as much pressure on my shoulders either, by being able to spend the time doing the things that I love, to just, relax and unwind and not take life so seriously.
No, I think the fourth thing, and like part of what we're getting to here is, I was listening to this incredible Super Soul podcast the other day with Oprah, and this guy, he was in The Secret. His name's Michael Beckwith. He sort of said, which just resonated so much with me, that, the reason we are here over the course of a lifetime is to let go, to be in flow, to be present, and to allow life to let us become the best version of ourselves, whatever that looks like. Now, for some people, that's sitting down writing books in the woods, and for other people, that's living like a really big life of service, and for other people, that's just inspiring their kids on a day-to-day basis of living their best life. But what I loved about it is, his belief is that if we are all supposed to eventually, if we're lucky enough to be in countries like Australia to even have these convos, because we've got food in the belly and we've got a government that supports us, but if we're all supposed to become our best selves in this life, then his second thing was we all eventually become it. And he's like, do you want to be the 80 guy on his deathbed that figures it all out and that realizes it was all so easy at that time, or do you want to try and figure it out along the way and just completely enjoy the journey? And so financial freedom for me is an absolute passion, as is property investing. But really, it's so much more than that now. It's like, well, what could you guys become if you didn't have to stress about and go to a job that maybe you liked or didn't like anymore? Like, how would you use those skills for the benefit of other people? And what could a day look like if the week starts with $2,000 or $3,000 before you even earn $1? And that excites me so much for young people and for people that are older just getting started.
And with my very limited experience in life, being young and only being working full time and investing for the last half a decade, 5 years, I've seen that transition in myself. And I don't mean to sound big-headed here or anything like that, but what I'm forced to do as a property investor is to learn more. Like, I've got so much debt and I want to figure out how to reduce that debt. So I'm reading all of these, personal development, self-help books to make sure that I'm staying on top of my mind and I'm not freaking out or getting too anxious. I'm forced to read these investment books because I want to plan for the worst, hope for the best. And throughout that journey, it has allowed me to become a bit of a better version of myself. And one of the proudest moments I had was having dinner with Mum one time, and she's like, I'm so proud of the person that you've become over the last 5-6 years since moving up to the Sunshine Coast and changing. And it's it's not about the long-term destination and getting there. It's going to happen throughout the journey to financial freedom that you're going to start becoming a better version of yourself, that you're going to start living more in alignment with your values, connecting better to yourself and to other people around you. And it's just a recipe for happiness, in my opinion. I think Jim Rohn says it really well. It's don't become a millionaire to be a millionaire. Become a millionaire for the person that you have to become to be a millionaire.
I love that, man. I really don't want to pretend that this is all rosy. We've gone through, I feel honestly, in the last 10 years, a lot of bumps and bruises. times of mass fear. Like at one point I got so much anxiety from doing this and the debt that I was in that I literally sold like 4 of my properties in 3 months and just freaked out. I've had times where one of my properties got burnt down on the central coast of New South Wales and I had to figure that out, and I was like so grateful that I was diligent and had insurance in place. I've had managers nail me. I've had people not pay rent. I've tried to be greedy and asked for too much rent and then lost tenants for a period of time. In COVID, had a couple of tenants just leave their keys in the sink and it's like gone. I've had solicitors nail me and rip me off and charge me way too much. I've just gone through it, but I think, you know, this is the reality. Like if you want to be in the game and you want to be in the arena, there's going to be a few bumps and bruises.
Yep.
Like most of the time I feel like information overload, and most of the time during this journey, you're probably going to feel a bit lonely too, because
Definitely.
as you start to do this stuff, there's not heaps of people that you can talk about it with. Like all of these things are part of the journey. Now I've got better practices in place, which helps, but it's like, you know, don't pretend that it's going to be this linear line between buying a place for 500 today and in 30 years it's worth $1 million. It's going to be bumpy. It's going to be bruising. Every part of you is going to be challenged, but if you can sit in it versus run away or try and fight it, it's awesome.
Yeah, like what doesn't kill you really does make you stronger. And all of that adversity is going to make you become a better version of yourself. Like it's going to allow you to live your true purpose. And, you know, I'd agree 100%. Like it hasn't been, you know, sunshine and roses over the last 5 years. It's just my optimistic personality that is always going to see the light instead of the dark. I'm always going to find the positive out of any negative situation. It's literally in my personality type. And like the date that I was born, if you're into that astrology stuff, like it really links to the person that I am today. So I always do that. But 100%, you know, there was failures, there was mistakes, you know, there was oversetting expectations. There was many sleepless nights when I was burning the candle at both ends in my mid-20s, partying, but then trying to do all this personal development, investing, stuff like that. So it's definitely a bumpy road, but I wouldn't have it any other way. You know, I think Joe Rogan talks about it really well when he talks about his idea of happiness. It's like living with purpose, pushing yourself, overcoming challenges. Like that's what we should actually be striving for. Like comfort actually isn't the desire. You know, I think overcoming challenges, you know, figuring out, solving problems, like that's what we really inherently want, because when you go through that and then you come through the other side and you can still feel good, it feels great.
I'm so grateful, guys, that you're on this journey with us. I'm so grateful to be on it with you as well, man.
Yeah, bro.
And yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying the stuff that we're putting out there.
Woo! That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Getting cool, bro. Yeah.
Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. That's so nice, eh? Oh.